Marfoogle TV live in 3, 2. All right, what is going on, guys? It is a very late show tonight. I had family stuff with my kids, with schools and stuff, going through parent-teacher conference stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for being patient. Thank you for everybody that is watching the replay tomorrow, and thank you for everybody that is showing up this late. There is, of course, every day there's going to be some sort of crazy, crazy train wreck happening, and we're going to cover it. We're going to cover it until that train finally derails. Again, there's a lot going on, and I hope that people are, at this point, honestly, trying to do whatever they can without freaking people out, getting their family and friends ready for a massive war. Every sign is there. I mean, if that gold price at over $4,060 today isn't, a big enough sign for you, just look at Bitcoin at 125,000. Just look at every single adversary, literally not only rearing up, getting their actual troops in place, making new bases, and, practicing knocking out the USA and our allies. I mean, it is nuts. People really think that at some point, somebody's going to puff our chest, and just like everything else we see on TV, it's going to scare the crap out of us, and then it's going to be wrong. It's kind of like, they use the analogy, people, boy that cried wolf a lot, right? I've been saying this is coming for 10 years, and rightfully, people get freaked out, especially when it does get to a peak point. Most preppers look at it as a peak possibility point. This is a point where we really do have a higher chance of getting into some sort of conflict. Now, that we look at it as just a higher percentage, but we know this thing is coming. It's just a matter of when and not if. So when you tell your friends oh my God, war is happening, it's happening this month, that's not something I have done at least for 6 or 7 years with my personal friends, because it was always egg on my face, right? If I said you need to get prepared, and again, sometimes they would, or they might, spend too much money that month that they didn't have, and they're like, dude, there was no war, now I'm, out $400 on food. Again, I have never forced or told anybody that, but I have suggested to my friends, and I've said I was really legitimately myself freaked out by what I heard from military members and that and such. And I told people to get prepared. And then when it doesn't happen, those same friends, the next time when it really is time, you tell them you need to get ready, you need to get preps. They're like, yeah, whatever. Nothing's ever going to happen. The news is just telling us all this crap, so we get scared. Well, at some point you have to realize there is many agendas. Nobody agrees on whatever, everybody's theory is. First of all, we are fundamentally split down the middle. And I'm not just talking about us here in the U.S. I'm talking about Australia. I'm talking about Europe. I'm talking about almost all of our allied countries have something going on, some sort of agenda. And with that being said, we are all split down the middle on so many things that will never, ever be agreed upon. So on top of a civil conflict brewing in our own country, de-dollarization, people afraid of the dollar right now, investing in gold and Bitcoin and putting it in, these safe assets, I would highly, highly recommend you pay attention to the narrative that they are kind of spooling around Russia, NATO, North Korea, South Korea, Iran, Israel, China, and Taiwan, and of course, Venezuela and Guyana all at the same time. This has never happened. And all the times I thought we might get in a war. And I thought maybe even a big war might get us a draft. But this will be multiple big wars. This will be big countries that aren't just going to go to war and say, let's meet at the front line, some civil war where they just march into each other's bullets. These are going to be people that are going to do first strikes, and not nuclear. I'm talking about cyber attacks. I'm talking about grid downs that will knock down our entire infrastructure. They are people that not only do you know they're going to do this, they have lay in wait in our systems, and they've been doing this for years. I've been at the same barbecues as some extremely high up people in the military, and it will absolutely scare the heck out of you. When I tell you some YouTuber, most people are entertained by this show, but they don't realize how much there is that is real in the show. So if I tell you on YouTube to get prepped and ready and to do it responsibly, like get a little bit at a time because you have a little bit of time, then you'll go, oh yeah, some people will listen. Some people will overly listen, and some people are too gullible and they just listen to everybody online. But then there are the people that are like, no, I wouldn't. But if you heard that same high-ranking official at the barbecue saying you need to have stuff and you need to have stuff within the next 2 years, a year and a half ago, that would literally get the fire in your feet, and you would actually get prepared. But most people aren't going to do that. Most people are not doing that. And that's my experience. That's that's what we had through family members and through other folks that we had actually talked to. When you talk to them themselves, off duty in their full garb, it's a little bit more intimidating when they straight up say, you need to get ready in the next 2 years. And we are absolutely telling your entire family to get ready. There is not one family member in our family that does not have the basics down: food, water, batteries, flashlights, these kind of things, generators in some cases, and then the ones that don't are trying to get it. So this is all of my extended family, with exception of my one sister, and she's actually now looking at a solar generator, which she is like on the other side of the spectrum from me. So, when you have somebody like that, it doesn't matter what side you're on. People listen to that kind of thing. And here's my call out. I really wish there would be more high-ranking officials that aren't retired that, would tell people the truth. You don't have to sink ships. You don't have to ruin a first strike or something and ruin a surprise attack or something. But if we are guaranteed going to war, and that we are going to war, just tell us. Because there's enough people, they're saying that, they don't want us to panic. They don't want the people to stop paying stuff and stop going to work. But that's about the point it is. Speaking of which, they just furloughed half of the IRS workers today, which I'm sure a lot of you are very sad about and have tissues nearby. All right, let's get into it. We've got Trump says he may go to Egypt soon for the Gaza deal. So we have, of course, from Reuters, President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that he may travel to Egypt this weekend as his negotiators seek to seal a deal for the Gaza hostages for the ceasefire deal. Let's a little bit earlier. We're gonna bring my co-host and / internet brother Dex James in 1 second. But I do want to remind you guys, we are independent. Make sure to go check our website. You have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. We're actually going to be back right after this disclaimer because we're going to get into some hot stuff. We'll be right back. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Everybody got the same blood. Patriots got to back me up. Everybody from a different color, doesn't matter. We on the we on stage and stand up right. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Let's bring in my co-host internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam. Hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
And this is going to be a shorter show than usual because it is at 9 o'clock at night or 12 midnight Eastern, which is what Dex's time zone is. So we're going to get right through this. Dex, let's talk about the more than 200 handmade grenades found in the tent.
Yeah, real quick before we do though, the article you were just talking about Trump maybe going to Egypt. Since that article came out, he did make a recent truth post announcing that the Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of the peace plan. So this means that all the hostages, this is his quote, this means that all the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel and surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So that was his statement he just put out a little while ago. So I don't know if he's actually got to travel to Egypt now. Sounds like the deal got done in the last hour or so.
Yeah, so we'll end up updating you on that tomorrow, and most likely there will be a small update because there's a lot of really crazy things up in the air before Thursday by tomorrow the 9th. So there might be a cell phone video on Marfoogle News, so make sure to tune in for that. I know you guys do not get notifications, so make sure to sign up for ours over on marfooglenews.com. That's the best way to get notified from our channel. If you're one of those people like, oh, I never get notifications, just understand we have a very simple notification system. Through your browser, you can just click on the icon and have notifications sent to you. If you want to sign up for our email list, again, we don't send blast emails. We only send stuff when it's important. We haven't sold one. We haven't sent one in over a year. I think 2 years now, a year and a half. So again, make sure to sign up for that email. That was my if I know, I'll tell you list. So make sure to go sign up for marfooglenews.com and go to the top of alerts. All right. And then let's get back into the news.
Yeah.
Dex, the 200 handmade grenades.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. So this happened Sunday. It was just came out yesterday. At least we saw it as some of the information came out from the court documents. But apparently there was a person outside the DC Cathedral, and he was arrested, and he had over 200 explosive devices on him, destructive devices as they call them. They were found inside a tent of a New Jersey man who set up on the steps of St. Matthew's Cathedral in Northwest DC Sunday, hours before hundreds gathered for the annual Red Mass, signaling the start of the new Supreme Court session. That Mass actually is attended by Supreme Court justices. So the handmade devices found inside the tent appeared to be fully functional, and parts intended to be converted into destructive devices were also found, according to the court documents. So he described
what do they mean by that? That they would take the parts out of the grenades and make other kind of explosives?
Yeah, or and maybe firework type explosives and turning them into more destructive than just fireworks. I'm assuming.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's how I would interpret it. But basically, they're saying this guy had a lot of ill will towards. He'd written a bunch of things and had ill will towards members of the Supreme Court, the Catholic Church, members of the Jewish faith, ICE facilities. So a laundry list, apparently, that he was after. So I don't know. This just kind of came out of nowhere. Nothing came of it because they, I guess, arrested him or found him and thought it was odd that he was set up there with a tent and found all this stuff on him. But it came out in the court documents, not necessarily the reporting at the time that it went down.
Yeah, and you know, I believe right when this was breaking, right? Didn't we have we kind of learned the first of it, and then we have now kind of a more of a bigger update on it. Didn't we talk about this briefly? And I suggested that, you know, the event that, or maybe that was a different event with a grenade, but you know, World War II or World War I, I forget which one, had a Fantastic Freddy that involved a grenade getting thrown into a radio station. And they were dressed in a certain outfit, and then everybody's like, oh my gosh, those guys are, you know, throwing a grenade in, when it was actually the other guys. That kind of event, that is what many of us are worried about, more so than 1,000 attacks across the country. We're more worried about something that happens that gets us into a war, that changes all of our laws, that changes our fundamental rights, just to keep us safe. So, and it's so crazy how the media, especially you know, left-leaning media, And you guys know I don't care if you're left or right. I think that we should all get along and be able to talk about things. There's a couple subjects that people are never going to see eye to eye on. But what's funny is like I actually have views on both sides because I grew up in Seattle, in one of the most liberal places in the world. But I also grew up with a very solid right-leaning family that, and a religious family. So when I saw people attacking the Christian religion, that immediately, by the way, I don't know if people realize that, if people are on the left that attack Christians and attack the cult, cult this, cult that, if you did ever want to get along with somebody, you would never make fun of their religion. At the same time, I think it's hypocritical that they do not say anything about other religions. Right now, it's like a free pass to talk about Christianity. Just me saying this right now will make sure that this video does not go far. Just him talking about this event will make sure that this doesn't go far. So if you guys want to help us out by sharing this video out, that would be much appreciated. But I just didn't appreciate that, like, how I didn't see. That's why a lot of people are actually falling more in belief that there not only is a God, but a devil. The fact that people are pushing so hard against specifically Christianity, but no other, religion. It has a free pass on almost all of the social media platforms. At the same time, you go to get a Coke, custom inscribed on the website, you can do the devil wins, blah, blah, blah. You can't do Jesus. Like, why are all these corporations aligned with that? It's just creepy. And of course, you hear the crazy rumors and all the theories, and it's really not doing them any good by having things like that, right? It hurts, especially in a time when almost everybody is just hopping on their phone and doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is telling their opinion. And there's a lot of people that grew a huge pair of cojones after the last few years. I don't know if you've noticed this, but the people that are doing the theories and conspiracies and this, I never see the same face on X. There's new people doing it every single day. And it's like, I don't know, I guess it feels like almost a revolution. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a good thing. We could very well see people brainwashed in 8 different ways, in 8 different theories, and then get to the point where they will never ever see eye to eye, and you get to a point where you have like a civil war. I mean, the Civil War had something that people would not fundamentally ever agree to. You had people, super, super rich people making money off of slaves, and people that, believed the slaves would be free, and there was all sorts of other things that were complicated about that as well. But it was like they were never going to see eye to eye. They're like, these people make me money all day, every day. Why would I give this up? So, and then the other people said, you need to, and you have to. That was something at that point. It always comes back down to money. It always comes back to money and resources. Back then, we didn't have machines to do it. We didn't even have, plows and different things. I mean, they probably had hand plows, but back then they had very, very primitive stuff compared to right now in the 1800s. So yeah, it's like those people, they didn't want to go out and pick the stuff themselves, right? So that means that if they didn't do it themselves, they weren't going to make any more money. They weren't going to have somebody just, put it all in a place for them and do all the work for them. I'm sure that they that was pretty hard to rip that out of their hands. And I'm glad it did, because we all have the same blood inside. And that's what people are forgetting. Like, doesn't matter what shade of color, like how close your ancestors were to the sun, that does not change who we are. Well, what changes who we are is culture and the governments of the world. Yeah, there's people that I know and I've heard say things that I'm like, dude, these people and these people, there's a difference between this and that. Or these people grew up there and they're just this. Well, yeah, and that system is our system that broke it. And I'm not, again, I think that there is no fixing it until you stop talking about it. There is no fixing the shades and colors until you stop using them, right? The only reason we use them as a descriptor. We could literally have 1 through 136 shades of color, and the whitest, palest person being, 1, and the darkest person being 136, and everybody in between, and it wouldn't matter what was in between. Oh, he was 6'5", he left out of the story. He was 6'5", and he was 132. Or he was 6'5", 400 pounds, and he was a number 2. And he probably was a number 2, if you get my drift. So yeah, I mean, like, just what's going on right now, I'm only saying this because we are so close right now. It is insane. They are just, they're trying to derail. They're putting pennies all over the track. They're trying to derail this train fast. And then there's a mysterious aircraft crash near Area 51, and it just got weirder. Dex, do you want to talk about this and why this is so weird?
Certainly, details remain scant about the unspecified U.S. Air Force aircraft, widely believed to be a drone of some kind, which came down in southern Nevada, not far from Area 51. This happened about 2 weeks ago. Whether the aircraft was ever actually inside Area 51's highly restricted airspace, also known as the box, is still unknown. The mishap prompted authorities to temporarily close airspace above the crash site, with some exemptions, while the wreckage was cleared. But there was also the strange twist of events that the Air Force had publicly disclosed that it and the FBI are investigating apparent strange tamperings at the crash site afterwards. So apparently something was going on around the site. And then the aircraft was assigned to the 432nd Wing, was involved in the incident with no fatalities or injuries. That's what they reported. The official report said the site was secured and guarded until the recovery and cleanup operations were completed. So that wing is headquartered in Creech Air Force Base. The flying squadrons assigned are primarily equipped with MQ-9 Reaper drones, but it's not the only type of aircraft with that the wings operate, and will come and that plays part of this. But they went on to say that had previously confirmed connections to the incident and there had been no fatalities, but they also said the investigation at the mishap as to what was going on and potential cover up on the ground, I think, is leading to a lot of questions as to what might have really been flying there, and if there was something specific related to Area 51 since it was so close. The Air Force has not confirmed the exact location of the crash site. However, it appears to have been around 12 miles to the east of the security boundary. So this, it begs the question, like, what was happening, what was going on here? Obviously, 12 miles is close enough. It was probably flying over the box, or potentially flying near or over the box, as they call it, that restricted area. And, just makes you wonder what possibly could have brought this down. What was it that was flying? Why was there a potential cover up on the ground? And what exactly was it?
Yeah, was it one of ours, or was it, again, somebody that might have put up a drone? We've covered this time and time again, that China and other countries too, this is something that's less talked about, is other countries have also bought purchases of property right outside our bases. China is the biggest one that lines up so directly, it's like a treasure map when you look at it and overlay it. But is this a Chinese citizen that has put up a drone, which are no longer restricted at all by DJI, as long as, I'm sure, think about this too. DJI, since they did that public restricting or unrestricting of space, so anybody can do a thing. You'll get in trouble if you go in front of an airport or by a plane. You'll go to federal jail if you do the right thing. But DJI is not going to stop you from taking off. That happened. We talked about that over the last couple months, and that happened. Actually, it started when inauguration, the day before inauguration. That was when it was done. So they're basically just saying, we're staying out of it. If somebody takes off and gets in trouble, that's up to you guys. That's up to the FAA. Well, in that case, it's like they could also smuggle in parts for these drones. They're very simple to make, especially if you have a huge property right next to a base. You can make these drones with DJI parts, and as long as you have the code from the motherland of China, you could make it a full-fledged DJI with no registration, with nobody's name on it, and then fly it over a base. It seems like it's common sense to me, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
they don't have to buy it at Best Buy. They can make these things. They're equipped and resourced.
Yeah, certainly. In this case, I think we're dealing with the larger aircraft that was flying at a much higher altitude and crashed to the ground. But and it was claimed by the Air Force. It's their plane. They just won't say what it was.
Yeah, I wonder.
But I think the question is who was on the ground messing with it, and why are they investigating it? at the crash site.
Well,
Why
if
is there
Area
an
51 says
investigation for that?
anything, can you believe them? If they claim it's
Exactly.
theirs, of course they're going to claim it's theirs. Would they go, oh, yeah, China made it right into Area 51, right into the middle of the country. Everybody knows we have the most top secret, almost alien tech here, but somehow China's DJI Express drone got right in. I don't think they would admit that, but that's just my opinion. But who knows? This could be like a new test thing. I'm sure people are going to think this is UFO technology reverse engineered, and it might have just crashed. The next cover up, the next 1941 event, or whatever year that was, the big famous UFO. All right, you guys, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is I've obviously mentioned this earlier. The main thing that we believe is going to happen is they're going to go after our grid and they're going to go after our cyber infrastructure. When we do get in these wars, and multiple wars will kick off at the same time, it's the only way that we can lose a war. The first thing to do is cut off communications, cut off power, and cause chaos. That means satellites, underwater cables, both being practiced and fully drilled for right now for China and Russia to knock out our satellites. They're following, that we just covered, they're physically following several satellites right now with their satellites right behind them. You've got underwater cable missions, including new stories coming out that the U.S. is actually joining these anti-underwater cable cut patrols, that they're basically watching the underwater cables at all time. Got radar going. They're watching it 24/7 like a hawk right now. And then you, of course, have our infrastructure. This is a device that will protect not only your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, your home, your ham radio, your Starlink. They now have a Starlink device they just released, and your modems, but it will also protect you against CMEs. So it's going to protect you against electromagnetic pulse attacks from any adversary like Iran, China, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela. It is also going to protect you against a solar event from the sun. If some sort of Atlas goes by and a solar flare pops out and they suck it up, and then Atlas comes out and sends it our way once it drives by, you'll be okay, because this is going to ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it is able to fry your device. It's very easy to put in. You don't need a mechanic or a handyman. Anyone can do this. We just had an 86-year-old grandma put this in their vehicle. It took them about 8 minutes watching a YouTube video. So again, marfooglenews.com/EMP, 3 wires, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground. Same technology is outfitting agencies like DHS, DOW, of course, the FBI, and Air Force. marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. All right, and then we have Spain's grid operator warns of new voltage swings, urges measures to avoid a blackout. Interesting timing on this, Dex, especially Spain went fully out, and it had to do with what?
Well, there's solar systems, and they've invested. They were really proud. It was like a couple of weeks after they finally said we're 100% renewable, meaning they had invested significantly in solar, which in theory isn't a bad thing. It's just a bad thing because all of the technology that goes into managing that, it comes out of China, and lots of backdoors and hacks have been found in the equipment that goes into the solar farms, not just the panels. It's more so the inverters and all of the other high-end equipment that solar panels connect to, and then are used to turn that into electricity. But we had speculated that there could have been an opportunity there, because at the same time, the last Spain power outage, they had just come out and said, look at all the stuff we found from China hacking potentially into these solar devices. That was the same time China was trying to negotiate with the EU and trying to keep the EU from coming up with a great deal with Trump over trade, because China was stuck on trade at the time. And now we have this new information coming out that Spain again is saying we're having a problem with the grid, and that there's these massive swings, these voltage swings that could actually bring the grid down. So they're putting out a warning in advance, but it's going to affect the supply in the country, and it could potentially bring another power outage.
Now, I just looked at it. It's still loading up here, but I said, what percentage of Spain's, and I messed up, Spainum's renewable solar infrastructure is from China? And it just briefly popped up here for a second. It's going to pop here in a second. But 83% of all of their renewable infrastructure is from China, India, and Vietnam, with the majority of that being China. When this happened, it is so insane because, when people look at the track record of certain communities, like when you look at our community and you guys in the chat and everybody here, we all called it out that day. The first day that Spain, its entire grid went out, it was after 2 weeks of covering stories that were like, oh, Spain is like totally proud of their renewable energy. We not only said, oh, well, I wonder where that's coming from since China has a monopoly on that. And is that going to cause an issue? Then all of Spain went out, and the timing of it was just so miraculous. The day after their entire grid goes down, the first thing they said, it was an atmospheric anomaly. They said, oh, it was like air pressure did something and messed it up. It was like they panicked. It was like they were at the table like, atmospheric anomaly. Or somebody was reading a tweet by Elon. I don't know. But they were like, oh, atmospheric anomaly. Within 24 hours, the entire internet just roasted them. They're like, yeah, right. They're like, it's probably China. They go and they don't say anything at first. They say, oh, we think it's from our renewable energy. The day after that, the U.S. comes out and puts this story out saying, we just checked one of our big transformers that is the same technology or the same setup, and there was a radio inside of it that superseded the firewall of the software and hardware in it that was able to communicate out. And guess whose that was? China's. Again, these are building size transformers. And this is my fear, is that many people, many of your friends and family that are not paying attention to the news, in fact, they're like, oh, I don't want to watch the news. It's too depressing. They are not going to know when they're going to think, oh, somebody hit a telephone pole for the first 3 hours. Those first 3 hours are going to be absolutely crucial. When the power goes out, they're not even going to check the car. Every time my power goes out, especially if everything goes out, I check my car. If my car is out too, that's a problem. If your cell phone is completely black, that's a problem. So yeah, with this being said, obviously we've got a problem here because our own country has admitted that this stuff and this radio stuff is in our grid as well. They had a short outage. Hopefully, if anything happens to us, it will be short as well. Dex, go ahead.
Well, since that time, since April, one thing to take into consideration, China being a no limits partner of Russia, can pull many strings for Russia. And one of those negotiating strings, and this is all hypothetical, could be to push the countries that it may have control over, like Spain with power, to do things for it. Well, what's the one thing Spain didn't do that every other NATO country did? Spain didn't pony up the NATO money. They're the only ones that said, hey, you know what?
Wow.
Man, we're not even going to do that. You guys do your 5%. We're not.
And then magically their whole grid goes down. This is a crazy stat too. 98% of solar panel imports into the European Union. So the entire European Union, 98% of solar panel imports, including Spain, originated from China. This was made fun of in Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up. If some people hated it, some people loved it. I thought it was a masterpiece. I honestly thought, out of all the movies and like the Oscars and all of those fake ass awards, I actually thought that deserved one because of how it portrayed it, how it wasn't a happy ending, even after the credits. I thought it was great. It was one of my favorite movies, even though it has all of this political rhetoric and just lame messages in the background. It was parody, but they did something and they talked about, they talked about Bash and they made fun of so many things and they had all these things out there. And it was like, you realize that all of this, everything that is happening right now, they said, oh geez, hold on. So they ended up talking about the technology and everything that's there. Oh my gosh, Dex, I was right there, and then I lost my train of thought because that movie is just so awesome. Do you know where I was going? I was hoping that you would finish my sandwich or finish my sentence.
No, I'm lost.
Oh man. Okay, 90% of solar panels in European Union, including Spain, originate from China. right? Oh man,
But while you're thinking of that, 90% of all solar panels around the globe are probably coming from China, to be honest, because they're the only ones making it.
So Bash. I'm glad. So Bash in this is basically the Zuckerberg. They have a chance to take the asteroid out of the sky. They end up waiting. This is a great movie for anybody who likes end of the world movies because it is literally an end of the world movie. Bash, the kind of Facebook /X /Elon of this movie, basically says, hey, let's cancel it. He has so much power over the president because he's a super donor. He basically cancels them in their 6 months out mission to hit it off course, which would have worked. And they're like, hey, let's send all of these things up and essentially blow it up with these high-tech, non-peer-reviewed, just came out scientific stuff right as it gets here, and then fly it down and actually drag the stuff down. What's so crazy about that movie and the premise behind it is people don't realize how real that is. The University of Glasgow we covered a story back in 2016 where they said, we think we have figured out how to actually get a asteroid, which some of these have $30 trillion worth of the resources that China has, and get it to land. They want to get them down to a size or break them apart where they're small enough not to cause a tsunami, but big enough to mine and big enough to find, and they want to guide them towards the planet. Of course, when people heard this, they said, that is the dumbest idea ever. End up guiding asteroids towards our waters and our oceans? Like, that's Tsunami City if you make one mistake. It's an idiot thing to do. Kind of like digging out a trench in Yellowstone and using it to make power. That was NASA's other stupid idea. Well, the thing is not only are they finding these asteroids have gold and all of these minerals and all of these resources that are going to be used in future electronics and servers and everything else that's coming with AI, but that movie basically pointed out in such a real fashion that, hey, we have a chance here. China has all of this under control. And it showed us this brief image in a thought of the future, where if China continues to have the future held down like that, when all of the other resources run out, China can just play the long game and they will run us. So it seems to me like all these wars are desperately looking for the new resources, the new oil, the new black gold. And that is exactly why we are seeing another world war. And it's all, it's because of this, and it's because we want freedom for the Ukrainian. No, it's not. They are literally all looking at their neighbors and going, in a couple years here, we're not going to have oil, or we're not going to be using oil, or they're going to ban it. So we need that new resource. It starts everything over again. It starts the gold rushes, the mineral rushes, everything. It's going to reset the planet. If we're not on a petrodollar, which the world runs on right now, the petrodollar is on its collapse. Gold is over 4,000. Bitcoin's at 125,000, which should tell you every single rich person, every single person that is in control of trillions of dollars of government money, just put their government's money into gold. Like, that's a lot. From 2,000 to 4,000 since 24, that's last year. That's a doubling of the worth. Gold is again right here. I'm going to show you this. We're going to probably look at this every single day because it is so insane. Let me just show you here. To go up $2,000, we saw it go up about $100 when somebody spent mystery parties. It was like 46,000 contracts for gold futures, spent $580 trillion or something like that, or $580 billion. And it went up like $45 or something. And they thought that was a glitch. They literally thought that was a glitch. Look at this, 4,057. Just to remind you, last night it was at 423 or 424 when we started. By the end of the show, it was at 435 by the end of the show. So, yeah, something is going on. It is very, very big. This is why we're asking you to prep. This is why we're asking you to have your friends and family prep. Don't panic buy. Don't go out and be stupid, which luckily what CV did for us in that is I think that people are going to be a lot more reluctant and a lot more responsible next time that there's going to be an event where we might panic buy. Dex, don't you think after the panic buying and the toilet paper, everybody had this realization that nobody really had to buy anything more than normal and we would have been just fine? But it was the fear of the unknown that everybody bought up everything and was fighting each other over toilet paper. I think that that's something that may not happen again. But even though right now with what's going on, this is more panic than what happened during CV. Or this should be more panic. Go ahead, Dex.
Yes, I agree. And I think bidet sales went through the roof.
Isn't that nuts? I mean, just look at that. This is 12 a.m. Boom. Look at that. It keeps skyrocketing. It's flying. Jonathan Floming, member for 22 months. Thank you for being here, especially in this late show. Says, stay vigilant all. Much love and blessings. Elaine Marie, welcome to the Foogle fam. Thank you for joining the Foogle fam. And then Rapture Ready was beginning to think you weren't having a show. And I'm sorry, again, Rapture Ready. I usually put a post on Twitter or on community post if I'm totally not doing a show, or I do a cell phone to let you guys know I'm not doing a show. I have 4 kids, so things happen, things pop up. This show was not supposed to be as late as it was, but it ran late. Also, house cleaning. Somebody said they thought this was like I converted or something. This is a backwards hat. I didn't want to deal with my hair. I can't afford a haircut yet, and it's getting unruly. All right. I'm not converting to anything. It is not what you think it is, which a lot of people thought it was the other day too. All right. And let's see here. Dex, Russia moves to withdraw from plutonium agreement with the United States. That seems like a red flag.
So the Plutonium Management and Disposition Agreement, the PMDA, was signed back in 2000, and it committed both the United States and Russia to dispose of at least 34 tons of weapons-grade plutonium each, which the U.S. officials said would have been enough for as many as 17,000 nuclear warheads. It came into force in 2011. Well, Russia's lower house of parliament on Wednesday approved a move to withdraw from that agreement with the United States, aimed at reducing the vast stockpiles of weapons-grade plutonium left over from thousands of the Cold War nuclear warheads. So that obviously means they can produce more nukes, which goes hand in hand, or goes directly against the other agreement that they said, let's get the New START agreement going back, or I think it was called New START or whatever, that agreement to not have new nuclear weapons made. But all of a sudden they're going to increase the stockpiles of the weapons-grade plutonium. Maybe that's to sell it to, other countries like North Korea and Iran. Especially if they're going to be losing money from the oil revenue.
Sorry about that, Dex. Cord came out. All right, and then we have China develops ways to deorbit space junk. Should we be worried? Now, you guys know I've had a side theory about this, that maybe all the countries really do have worries about having resources and things after a major disaster. I'm not talking about a world-ending event, but possibly a city killer that puts a damper on farming for a year, or they're worried about Yellowstone, or they're worried about something. But as far as this goes, ways to deorbit space junk. Now, everybody, of course, the obvious is that they're probably doing this to knock out satellites, or they're trying to knock out dead satellites, which in themselves can cause a huge issue. Hypothetically, if we believe everything they say, one dead satellite can then get in orbit and then hit another satellite and cause a domino effect. And the movie Gravity, I believe, is a great example of that. That put into a movie, into Hollywood film, how they believe that would go, right? It would just start careening at thousands of miles per hour and start knocking everything out of space. And all of a sudden, we don't have GPS, we don't have satellites, we don't have anything. Is that why they're trying to take the space junk out? This is the same country that when they launched a massive, massive set of 3 rockets, all 3, everybody in the US tracked it because everybody, the whole media hype over the rocket that dropped, the part that got it up there dropped, and it was so big that if it landed in, say, New York, it would have taken out a city block. And they didn't have any kind of system to bring it down. It just deorbited and it landed where it landed. That was because they were bringing up 3 different pieces, massive, massive pieces, with such a big rocket for their space station, their Tiangong space station, that they didn't have a system to bring it down, and they didn't care. They're like, well, if it lands in America, it lands in America. So everybody in the world tracked these 3 objects. But what I was looking at is, if they're not, trying to knock that out of the sky, they don't care where things land. Then is this really for what it is said to be meant for? Dex, do you know what I mean? Like they didn't even care about giant rockets that could have knocked out a freaking half a city, or a couple city blocks with their rockets that could have landed anywhere in the U.S. or anywhere else.
Look, the easiest way to practice taking down satellites is taking out space junk. So if they can go up there and take out space junk and do it efficiently and effectively, they can quickly turn around and take out satellites.
Yeah, because Dex, I wonder, what is the difference between space junk and an active satellite? Nothing.
Yeah, not a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it might have a couple more blinking lights and a bunch more tinfoil and who knows, rats running around on it or something. Oddly enough, alive. But who knows? And then China sends a horror, World War III threat of nuclear strike hitting in 20 minutes. This is war. You usually see these from like Medvedev or Sergei Lavrov or Putin. This is, China's been stepping it up. They are like going Kim Jong-un style lately. But China has sent a chilling warning to the world as Beijing boasts of its nuclear capabilities. And we actually talked about this the other day. One of their officials actually talked about their 61 missile. They call it a 61 missile because it has it can hold 60 warheads and 1 hydrogen bomb. They said it does so much damage, it would be, like a be-all, end-all kind of missile. Dex, do you want to talk about what China said to us and why a lot of folks are freaked out by it?
Well, yeah, I guess it's this Mr. Gao was reporting the comments from as they were boasting. Beijing was boasting of its nuclear capabilities, but one of the big comments here was describing one weapon, which he said to have described as a capability of striking any target around the world in under 20 minutes without the possibility of being intercepted. So when you couple that with maybe even the idea that missile could carry a 60 nuclear warheads and a hydrogen bomb on it as well, all in one, and be able to get anywhere around the world in 20 minutes and not, according to them, not be able to be intercepted. Obviously talking about hypersonic and maneuverability with hypersonic. I think that, is definitely a game changer when it comes to it. It doesn't mean that, they've got the U.S. by the short hairs or anything, but it certainly is a boastful statement, obviously directed at the West and definitely the U.S. As it relates to, nuclear capability. Even though they may not have the most nukes, they may have ones that matter.
Yeah, and you know what I thought of? The 61 missile, if it can carry 60 warheads and 1 hydrogen bomb, do you realize that's 1/10 of their entire arsenal in one weapon? That's pretty insane to think of. Like, why did they go, like, it isn't like 30 enough to knock out half a country? Like, really, did they have to go with 61? And why? Like, they just wanted to put like a combo drink. They got creative while they were at the Starbucks or something. Like, what if we put 60 warheads on it? Somebody else did 45. We should just up them a little bit.
Well, I think strategically, if you invest so much in the delivery vehicle to get it there in a fast speed, that once you get it there, then you can split out and take out 60 U.S. cities across the continent from one missile.
Like the Sarmat.
Yeah, I think that is probably the thought process, is like invest so much in the capability of maneuvering it at a high speed to get it there, such so that when it splits off over the continent, it can then attack 60 different targets, you know, and do that obviously still at a hypersonic speed.
Okay, that makes way more sense. And think about it. So, like the Sarmat, the Satan II, you've probably seen it. It is one of the scariest looking missiles. The Sarmat or Satan II, it has, I think, 13 or 15 warheads on it. What it will do is, say it would go to the East Coast, one would go to Washington, one would go to Chicago. At a certain point in the atmosphere, it would break apart into multiple warheads that would each go to their own target. So that's pretty crazy, because you think about it, it's like missiles inside of missiles with nukes inside of nukes. And they're saying that this one has 60 warheads, so 60 different targets, and a hydrogen bomb for wherever the main one lands. It sounds like some sort of wacky invention, right? So, yeah. And then as of May, China had the largest armed forces in the world by active duty military personnel, with over 2 million active soldiers. That's as of May. They just hit that. Now they are the largest manned army. They are the largest navy, even though their navy's not one-to-one with ours. They've got 3 or working on 4 carriers. We have like 11 already. A couple of them are old, but we still have twice as many carriers. Right? Those were the most important ones. With their carrier strike groups, they were unstoppable, or almost unstoppable, in World War II. Now things have changed, especially with new technology that can possibly not only hide the attackers, missiles that cannot be stopped even if they see it coming. It's hitting a bullet with a bullet. And 2, if those ships, if our Navy cannot hide from them, if they have, say, that missile that comes in at hypersonic speeds and then delivers out in the ocean 60 small tactical, maybe if they put 60 small tactical nuclear weapons, all of them unstoppable, and hit each one of our ships, because they now say they have technology to spot our ships and even detect our stealth ships, or our stealth B-2s and different jets, F-35s, because of their exhaust plume. They say satellites, they can actually look at the exact tracker and they can find any stealth plane, no matter how high it is, in the world. At least that's their claim. So you knock out these ships with all of these, that would be something that you would see if they were really not only going for Taiwan, but teaming up with other countries and going for other, like I could see a Red Dawn situation here, and a lot of people can't. A lot of people think that that's complete fiction. If you think about how millions, and we mean millions, a lot of people don't know the updated numbers of the people that came in over those 4 years where everybody was just coming in by the tens and thousands. Like, we all saw those images of the caravans coming into our country. Most of those people got in. Not only that, people were paid, in my opinion, to turn their head. People were paid to be like, no, this is what's actually culturally right. We need to do this. We need to protect them. Hell, we are so behind this, we're going to fly them in ourselves. Come on, Come on in. Get on the flight. In fact, get on the flight towards New York. We're going to put you up in a 5-star hotel. That's not something any logical person would do after 2001, right? Especially they were doing it from countries that we already said there is a huge presence of people that absolutely hate our guts, and it just seems purposeful. Like somebody else was in the White House, like somebody was meeting up, going to Bill Gates' house and doing a Zoom call locally and going, hey, bud, how are you doing? And then Jill's like, oh, where are my pants? I don't know what happened, but it seems like something happened. And then maybe their assistant were like, oh, come on in. Take a plane. Here's plane tickets. Here's a 5-star hotel. Here's healthcare. Here's free insurance. Here's food stamps. And, oh, here's a closet to put all of your military fatigues for now. It could be like that. Maybe I have a creative imagination. I don't know. Oh, here's some money to buy all the farmland right next to our bases. And I don't know why I'm devolving into Mickey Mouse. because it was a clown show. That's why. All right. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy. It is the best, in our opinion. And again, we would be selling this 24/7. We would have been their affiliate forever. We have not been able to sell these or any Energy for over a year now. And that's because they are purely focused on their Army contracts. They won the SBR Phase 2 contract for this exact solar generator, the Flex Tactical. They had the Energy Flex 1500 for consumers. They basically cut that out, just cut it out because they had so much demand for the military one, which also tells you something, right? That they literally took the buy button off their website. They're not selling them to the public because it was taking 6 to 8 months for Foogle fam to actually get this generator. Right now, if you order it, you will get it right now. It'll be shipped right out. You get your generator right away. That is something that many of you, I'm sure, are pissed off about. You're like, oh, thanks, Adam. I waited 9 months and I dealt with customer service 45 times. I am sorry. I really am. That hurt all of us. And that, again, was not, it's hard to blame who because of all of the stuff that's going on with China right now. But I will say this, you don't have to wait right now. There's a small batch. Once that buy button is gone, you cannot buy this generator. It has built-in reinforced frame. This thing could fall off the back of a Humvee, which is probably what's going to happen. And this thing is not only going to survive, it's going to thrive. It's got the clamps that are super quick, the just click clamps that you would have on almost like a briefcase or some sort of almost like a kennel. Just click, click, boom, you're gone. You can either have 40 batteries or you can click and take one with you. There's mods that actually change it, that allow it to take more solar panels, that allow it to charge faster from the wall. There's all sorts of awesome things. But again, you'll have to get it when you can get it. marfooglenews.com/energy, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. I just want to point out before anything, and this is related, I've always said that these things are built like things used to be, like toasters that were built in the 50s that are still working in the thrift stores. That's because back then they actually made them quality, but then they realized if they make a toaster that lasts 60 years, you're never going to buy another toaster. And not to mention they also contracted and had them made in China. And that's where everybody gets the idea that everything made in China falls apart. It's on purpose. It is purposely done with the cheapest parts, with the most overhead, and that is really a lot of the American companies that are the greedy, cheap bastards that are making it like that. If they told China make this to last 100 years, they would, because it doesn't change what they make off their labor. It does change their bottom line, though. So with that being said, there was this video that came out, and I'll have to get the young lady's name, but it was actually something I saw on Asmongold talking about how this woman went into this. And Dex, you know all about this. The Samsung has a $3,000 fridge that's coming out, and they're basically telling their customers, hey, by the way, we're adding ads to your $3,000 fridge that has a full-on 50-inch TV on it. And this thing also keeps track of what's in your fridge, which we've talked about before. And it also has ads. So it's going to be like, hey, you're low on orange juice. Safeway down the street has it on sale. And it's going to be these hyper directed ads. And this young woman talks about how basically everything is going to have ads. Everything that you ever do. Cars that are going to have, you're going to have GPS built into your car. Now, certain vehicles like Jeeps and things are having ads sent into the vehicles. I mean, this should be something that right away people are fighting. And many people are calling this out, but really it takes organization. It takes everybody saying something about it to stop it. And you may go, well, I'm not going to buy the $3,000 fridge with the TV on it with ads. But the thing is once they set precedents like this and they will already sell the product and then just morph it, sort of like how when you had Netflix and you were paying $9 a month and they were like, oh, by the way, your new plan, the $9 ones, you can still pay $9, but we're adding ads. So now you have to pay $11 or you have to, receive ads. And you're like, well, wait a second.
Or pay more.
Yeah. Dex, how many of the platforms have done that now?
Well, but I guess the way you got to look at it is whether or not there's a cost, okay? And if there's a cost to run the service that is tracking and giving you all this functionality, and there's hardware and servers and cloud infrastructure and software developers that are writing code for your $3,000 fridge that just costs $3,000 even if it didn't have that technology in it. So they add that technology to it. The question is, are you willing to pay $20 a month so that there's no ads, or are people willing to just say, no, I'll just take it with the ads because I don't want to pay $20 a month for it? It's kind of like radio. You listen to free radio. Well, you listen to it because it's got ads in it.
Well, why can't they have a phone with AI, and because that's what it's using? It's using an AI algorithm. I don't think that they have to have.
It requires software developers to maintain it. It requires hardware in the cloud to maintain it. It requires expensive costs just to run a piece of software in the cloud. It costs money. So, it's no different than Netflix. I'm not a fan of Netflix by any means, but their costs are what they are, and they have a higher cost with no ads and a lower cost with some ads, and they may even at some point have a free model that has full of ads. Like a lot of those television platforms, Peacock or others, have watch for free, and they just insert ads in the entire show, kind of like you're watching the old school television. So
what bothers me is when they do it after the fact. You've been paying for 5 years for $12, and then they go, "Oh, it's 15 now."
Walk with your pocketbook. Yeah, exactly. Make decisions with your pocketbook. Don't spend money with them if you don't want. But I get it. Like, the GPS in your car, it requires a software upgrade, which is all licensed software from the map manufacturers. Okay, so when you buy a car, your map gets out of date. You have to go and buy the $99 package to get the new map, right? So if you want the new map updated in the GPS, you got to pay for that. So if somebody comes along and says, "Hey, we'll put the maps in there and we'll keep them up to date forever for you," all you got to do is stick an ad in there so we can make a little money to pay for that service and offset that cost. Would you rather have updated maps, or would you rather pay $99 every year and a half to get it updated?
But they've trained us so people do. They're like, "Oh, I guess I can put up with the ads," because people are so broke and inflation is so nuts that they're like, "Yeah, I guess I'll have a permanent tracker in everything I own, including my vehicle."
I get it. I get it. I'm just saying it's about cost, and people won't spend. I've had cars that have map systems in them, and I've never spent the money to upgrade. I'm sorry.
I think Samsung and many and they do talk about it. So most TVs, if you did not realize this, most TVs are on a loss. They are a loss leader. In fact, they actually lose money. They've lost millions and millions of dollars making TVs. When you go buy that $25 40-inch TV from Walmart, which I've seen it, is so crazy when I see these flat screen 4K TVs, and not even at Black Friday, like just sales of like $25. I've picked up them. My kid, Jack, he's literally just busted the heck out of TVs. We had him on a dresser. He played his Legos and played his figures. Smash! Oh gosh, he broke it. We will never get him a nice TV in his room. We've bought so many of those cheap TVs because he's broken 3 of them now. One of them was, we've got, okay, well, now we're going to mount it on the wall. All right, well, then he just swung a bat and flung, like perfect, too. The kid has aim. He's like the Mr. Magoo with an object around TVs. But you know what I'm saying? Those cheap-ass TVs, they lose money. And that is because they have the ad platforms. You'll see the smart TVs, They have the bloatware, right?
But we have the choice. That's the thing. You have a choice. We just choose, because we're lazy, cheap Americans, to buy the cheap TV. In your case, you have a practical reason for it. Maybe you break them all the time, but we choose to do that. You can buy a television that has no smarts in it, and it may cost you more. There are plenty of them out there. And that's just how the technology works. Like you can pay a higher premium on X and not see ads, okay? Or you can pay a lower premium and see fewer ads, or you can pay no premium and get all ads on X. That's how the models work. They try to help offset it so that people that can't afford it can still have the great opportunity, and they just offset it by putting advertisement in there to offset the costs.
The highway says put him to work. He's 5, so that would technically be illegal. But I do have him do little chores and pick up his Legos, and he gets super excited when he does things right. Like I'll say, "Hey, you need to do this," and when he does it, he's just so pumped that he did exactly what I needed him to. He's just such a good kid. He's my first son, so 3 daughters and my first son, and yeah, many of you dads out there, you might know, especially Dex, you have girls or you have boys too, right? You have boys and girls.
Boys and girls.
What did it feel like when you had your first son? It was it it was great. It was amazing. Yeah, he's just it just blows me away. And then how much he's like me when I was a little kid. And I don't know if you've ever had your kid remind you of yourself and actually remind you of something you completely forgot about. Like he took the G.I. Joes, or they weren't even G.I. Joes, they were like a little Roblox figure, and he was playing in the Christmas tree last year. And I remember, like, to me, I had such an imagination. I would be like my head stuck into the Christmas tree, jumping from branch to branch, like in my own little jungle world in that tree. And I saw him doing that. I was like, how does that happen? Like he had the same exact thought as me when he was a kid, and it brought me back. And I literally stuck my head in there, and I was like, I was playing with him, and it just brought me back to when we had imagination. It's really sad how we've lost. Did you play pretend when you were a kid, and like cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians and stuff like that? Dex?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it was like you could. I played superheroes and had, you always disagreed. You're like, I just got you with my super laser vision, and like, no, you didn't, because I've got my super shield vision. It was stupid, but it was so awesome. We lost that, and it's very sad growing up and losing all of that. And I think many of us here, we still have a chunk of that. That's why we see these patterns. It's why the little ones see things that we don't, right? They are not brainwashed yet. They're not completely cuneiformed into this just absolute piece of Play-Doh that's been shaded and molded by school. I think that a lot of people in our community, and I'm not speaking for everybody, I think a lot of people here did not fully commit to school too. Like, I think that we did not get brainwashed through school. I missed a lot of school. And I've met so many people that can actually see through the patterns, that don't believe everything that is said. And they're people that were not trained by the bell, that missed school or were absent, or alternative schools, or, on Smoker's Corner instead. That's where I was instead of in class. So yeah, I think a lot of us too. And I wouldn't want it any other way, because, time and time again, there are so many of us that can see this and see it coming so far away, that we are going to be the survivors, not the people that got brainwashed and trained. It's, yeah. And luckily, if you were brainwashed and trained, you're here and you have so many good people around you to tell you what the heck is up. All right. And then, I was just thinking of that, and it's just so awesome having kids. Today at the parent teacher too, my other kid in kindergarten, she's just couple weeks in, and she's just already kicking butt, already reading and doing everything that a kindergartner should be doing. So I'm just super, super proud of my kids. Thank you guys. And I'm sure some of you got some grown kids. Dex, your kids are all grown up. It's something to say when you are annoyed to all hell with them and so proud of them at the same time. It's an amazing feeling.
Exactly.
All right, you guys, have a wonderful night. Thank you, Dex, for your service. I appreciate you. It is now, what is that? 2 o'clock in the morning now?
Yeah, it's 1:15 in the morning. Yeah.
Get some sleep.
Great job, brother. Yeah.
All right, you guys, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. It is now time for the shout-out. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It is a shout-out.
Welcome to the Marfoogle news. I'm gonna shout it from the rooftop. Welcome to the Marfoogle. Marfoogle, no sir. I'm gonna